And I'm Eric Moore, and I got some viewer questions. I guess people have been checking out Facts News and have some questions from around the country about some of the things that I've been speaking about and some of the things that have been going on in our society, especially within government. And I just want to get to a few of the questions right now. Okay, let's see. First up, see who do we have here. This is Jane in Wisconsin. Your question is, what can help turn the U.S. economy around? Well, that's a complex that's a complex both question and answer. There's not just one variable that can turn the U.S. economy around. There are several things that could be implemented. Number one is to take back the tax subsidies from uh, from companies that don't need them. Quite frankly, various oil companies, um, companies that are offshoring jobs, especially companies that formerly manufactured goods and services for the United States of America and now have decided to ship uh, most of their production overseas to foreign countries, uh, take their subsidies away. Um, that's a start. Also, increasing taxes on them, creating some sort of tariff provision that will serve as a deterrent for companies that continue to export jobs overseas. There's really no policy out there right now in the books that has any teeth in it to discourage companies from shipping jobs overseas. I mean, if you're the head of a corporation, if you have a chance to pay an American worker $20 to $30 an hour to produce a particular product, but on the other hand, you can go to China and pay a worker to produce the same product for maybe $1 to $2 a day, American money. The choice seems to be pretty easy right now, and a lot of the manufacturing base that was once the backbone of the United States of America is gone, and quite frankly, unfortunately, a lot of those particular jobs are never coming back, and a lot of those salaries aren't coming back. So what has to happen is there needs to be new infrastructure created uh, to, uh, to 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 spur entrepreneurs and new methods of production. Um, President Obama has talked about clean coal energy and growing a green economy. These are things that are necessary, but the problem you have is that you have a lot of companies that make profits. I mean, billions and billions of dollars every year on things that are existing, and they really have no incentive to allow change to happen. Um, and a lot of them have, big time lobbyists working on their behalf to make sure a lot of these 21st century new wave projects don't happen. But it's up to us to keep the pressure on. We as ordinary citizens to keep the pressure on our lawmakers and to keep some pressure on these corporations to back off and don't corner the markets, because especially with gas prices the way they are right now, that's a huge misnomer. And it's a big thorn in the side of a lot of Americans right now, and there needs to be some kind of alternative energy. So hopefully that answers your question for you, Jane. Let's see, what do we have? So question two. Let's see, this is from Ed in Minnesota. Why hasn't the president done more for the middle class? Well, Ed, his hands are tied, it seems like. We, most middle class Americans, a great portion of them, especially from the Midwest, voted for the president and believed in the hope and change. But unfortunately, the money talks. Um, that's just the way it is. You got a situation right now where corporations um, run this country. Corporations and big banks, especially, run this country, and it's their incentive, especially the ones at the top. They have a huge incentive to keep their money at the top. Ronald Reagan talked about some trickle down theory of economics back in the 1980s, but unfortunately, the trickle never goes down. Usually all the water stays up top with those who are the decision makers and the quote unquote societal elites keep the bulk of the profits for themselves. And what you have right now is a growing a growing just a gulf of difference between the haves and the have-nots in this country right now, and the middle class is disappearing because the backbone of the middle class was the manufacturing base of this country for decades, in fact for most of the 20th century. So now, what has to happen is there has to be goods and services produced. Unless there's goods and services produced within this country, there's no need to hire anyone, and corporations know that. But the president has to put the pressure on these corporations and say, hey, the middle class is who I'm looking to help, because the middle class, or what was the middle class, made up the bulk of everyday hardworking Americans within this country. So hopefully he hasn't really done a whole lot about it within his first term as president, but hopefully in the second term it's something of greater focus to the president, because quite frankly, the middle class is vastly disappearing, and it's really unfortunate. Let's get to the third question here. Uh, this is from Herman in Georgia. Why do black people overwhelmingly support Democrats as opposed to Republicans? Hmm. Well, a little bit of history here. Um, Republicans like to say that their party was the party of Lincoln, but not necessarily. Uh, I mean, it's true, but it's not the same Republican Party as was back then. Democrats really garnered support of African Americans with Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the New Deal. Um, that was the first time that a lot of blacks who were desperate to escape the clutches of Jim Crow got opportunities to escape the South and escape the sharecropping lifestyle. My grandfather was one of those Americans who had opportunity. He moved to Detroit, Michigan, and bettered his life. So from then on, a lot of African Americans hitched their wagons to the Democratic Party. Also, the 1960s, with the advent of the presidency of John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Baines Johnson, with the progressiveness on civil rights, I would say though probably 1964 was a turning point. Um, Barry Goldwater, senator from Arizona, ran against Lyndon Baines Johnson that year for the presidency, and that was the advent of the Southern strategy, and a lot of Southern Dixiecrats who were Democrats, a lot of who were pro-segregationists supported Barry Goldwater, as opposed to Lyndon Johnson, especially after Lyndon Johnson pushed through the Civil Rights Act in 1964, and that was a huge turning point, and you saw a major shift um, of the Southern Dixiecrats to the Republican Party. And another thing, the Republican Party's never made blacks welcome. You have your few blacks, you have your Herman Cains, you have your J.C. Watts, you have your Michael Steeles, but for the most part, they're a exception to the rule. The Democrats do a better job of making African Americans feel accepted, even though they, in my opinion, they take our votes for granted, um, and the Republicans just plain take us. And I think a lot of it has to do with the Republican stance towards the poor and disenfranchised. They really have no stance at all. As far as I can see, they could care less. They're pro-business, and a lot of African Americans are unfortunately not as fiscally successful as as others. So hopefully I answered that question for you. Let's see. This is James in St. Louis, Missouri. Is the Tea Party racist? Loaded question here. Let me give you a sample answer. Um, some of them, and better yet, yeah. Let me say it this way: not everybody in the Tea Party is racist, but you have to ask yourself the question. The Tea Party is a group of individuals, mostly white, who pride themselves on talking about fiscal conservatism and balancing budgets and government spending. That's what their rallying cries are. But it's funny that they only appeared on the scene after President Obama was elected president, but they were never protesting when George W. Bush sent us to two wars that we had no money to pay for. They weren't protesting during the Bush tax cuts that for the wealthy, which added trillions of dollars to our national deficit. It makes you wonder. Um, it does make you wonder. In my opinion, yes, there's a strong undercurrent of racism that is propelling the Tea Party, and in my mind, is giving a lot of people strength in numbers to disrespect the current president that we have right now, and not show him the type of respect that he deserves for the office that he holds. And that's my opinion on the Tea Party. Yeah, I don't think they would like me at the Tea Party rally at all. Okay, what do we have? This is Mark in Houston, Texas. If President Obama is reelected in 2012, will he show more of a backbone and fight more aggressively for the poor and middle class? Mark, answer to that is I believe he will. I believe that if he does get reelected, that the Mr. Nice Guy is over. I think that he'll aggressively use the bully pulpit and really push the pieces of legislation and the agenda that he really wants to lay down going forward for this country. I think he will govern as if his back is against the wall and really take the case to the American people. But the problem is right now, as we stand here September 1st, 2011, that the president, unfortunately, has done a lot of caving in, done a lot of capitulating. It's frustrated a lot of his supporters, including myself. But what he has to do is go back to the drawing board and refocus on the reason why he ran. And remember the reason why he ran. And is to help everyday Americans improve their lives and to help this country move forward in a progressive manner. Uh, I really hope he does. I can't speak for the president. I'm not. I don't know anybody personally that's in the White House, but I would hope that he would, that he really would take a strong stance for the middle class, because it's so necessary. Because the middle class is shrinking more and more every day, and I think everybody deserves an opportunity to at least be middle class. Not everybody is going to be wealthy, um, but I believe that everybody does deserve the opportunity to be middle class, and that takes jobs, quite frankly, and that takes um, an economy that's sustainable and benefits those who are qualified to work and seek work. Okay, final question. Let's see, what do we have here? What do we have? Hmm. Oh, this is an interesting thing. This is from Richard in Chicago. What has President Obama done for black people and why hasn't he done more? Well, up until this point, there isn't a whole lot that he's done really for black people. Uh, it's almost been like he's been trying to govern for everybody. He has specifically focused on black people, which is a little disheartening. But then you say to yourself, in the past 47 years since the civil rights legislation was passed under Lyndon B. Johnson, what has any president done for black people specifically? Um, I can't really think of anything that's really specifically benefited black people done by a president. Now, we hope that having the first African American president would change these things, but up until this point, it hasn't happened. Maybe it's something that the president will look to do within if he gets a chance at a second term. I really hope he will. I really do, but it takes the pressure of leaders from within the black community to identify what the main ideas of what blacks need in this country, whether it be um, better access to education or health care, or it's a myriad of things, or a better defense, better schooling, especially within inner cities, uh, better chances to go to college. What has to happen in the black community is there has to be a change of the culture, from young men going straight from the high schools and into the prison industrial complex. Um, we need to see that reverse and have young men go straight from high school into college, or if not college, into some sort of a trade. There needs to be opportunities for those things. Um, the president can push those things. He can, um, but I guess maybe in my mind that this country is just so much in a mess right now for people of all colors and races, economically, that it would be maybe not the wisest decision for the president to just specifically say, "Hey, I'm going to help just black people here." Maybe, like I said, maybe that can come later on down the line, but right now, that might not be the best course of action uh, for his presidency, at least this year, while he's going trying to get reelected in 2012. But these are some good questions. Everybody wrote some pretty good stuff here. I hope I was able to answer them the best way I could. I'm not, like I said, I'm not the president personally, but I'm just trying. I'm just a man who can sense things, and just try to get I try to get a feel from what the president might be thinking, or the direction that he may want to lean with some of his policy decision in relation to some of these questions that were proposed. Um, Thanks for tuning in. This is Eric Moore again on Fax News, September 1st, 2011. And make sure you check out my other videos. I posted another video tonight about a letter I actually wrote the president today. So be sure to check that out. And God bless you all, and have a great day or night whenever you see this. So, goodbye.